Hey everybody, we're here. We're about to podcast. Sorry about the delay, but we love you. We've been the video has been live for 30 minutes. I put it live at 7:23 or 7:27.
So they've
just been watching the stream starting soon for just 30 solid minutes. Nice.
Hey man, you got to do that so that viewers have time to come in.
Yeah,
so,
come in.
Know,
Scott White's in the chat.
Not cold opening your stream to no viewers. That's what all the popular.
That's what the pros do
on Twitch.tv do. So you gotta get some like sick intro music. Just have that play on a loop with like a sweet like loading animation. I would recommend any track from Hotline Miami's OST.
Ooh, good call. Good pick. Hold on, I'm gonna retweet this, and then we are going to start the podcast. That's, from what I understand, about video games.
I've heard that.
Yeah, so it
remains to be seen.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how this goes. May or may not be. God, when did I send this? Gosh dang tweet. All right. Let's get shaking.
God, you guys ready to talk about fucking Clash of Clans?
I've been looking forward to it all week, Tony.
Me too, dude.
I love you, boys. Winky face. Thank you for telling me what's going on in your lives, so I know now. I appreciate it. All right. It is Saturday, October 12th, 2019, and you are listening to the Irrational Passions podcast. I'm Alex O'Neill, your podcast conductor this evening, and joining me this week, we have Mr. Scott Guthier.
Hello.
And Mr. Tony Horvath.
I don't want to just say what Scott says, but I didn't have enough time to prepare a bit. So I guess this is the bit.
So hello. Hello. Brian Nobishan Jackson will be joining us soon, hopefully. And then we'll have everybody here. No editor this week. I was trying to get Jarrett Green on, but he couldn't make it. I think he sent me a picture of him out somewhere drinking, so he's probably doing
that's on brand.
That is on brand. It's the most Jarrett thing you could do, but he's not here.
You ever been in a 7-Eleven and seen the giant ass
the slushy?
They have the soda ones, the double. It's just a fuck off massive plastic cup.
Yeah.
I very heavily considered just getting one of those today and not putting anything in it, and then just making a Moscow Mule that filled it, and just drinking that during the podcast.
That's the kind of the podcast drink that I could get.
And then I was too tired to follow through on my grand plan.
That's all right. We'll get him next time, Tony.
Mission failed. We'll get him next time.
We'll get him, bud. We got a good show lined up for everybody. It should be the kind of main forecast. We got a little bit of stuff to talk about. Maybe we'll get into the kind of political hot topic of the week. Maybe we'll just not talk about it. We'll see. I don't know what you guys want to talk about. But this is Irrational Passions Podcast. Welcome. Thanks for listening. Thanks for hanging out. If this is your first time listening, I'm sorry in advance. And this is a podcast where we talk about video games. And it's a product of irrationalpassions.com. It's a website about video games. You should check it out. Let's talk about them. I'm trying to, a new initiative, Scott, because you were not here last week. You might have been.
What are we doing?
I'm trying to just jump right into the games talk a little bit faster, right? I know we spent 15 minutes doing housekeeping, whatever. Sometimes I have an opening bit, sometimes not. Let's just talk about video games. You've been gone for a week, Scott. What you been playing? Have you been playing anything? Did you get time to sink in anything? I know you've had a bit of a hectic couple of weeks, but what you been playing?
Not too much has changed.
Okay.
Since the last couple of weeks I was on here. So that's still gonna be
League of Legends.
Some League.
I don't think Scott's playing League of Legends. I haven't played with League of Legends with Scott.
You have, and we did it with Greg.
It's not. Oh yeah, that's right. We played League with Greg.
With Greg Blaney?
Yeah.
Holy shit! When did this happen?
Must have been like Sunday.
This should have been on like a Wednesday, I thought.
Okay, whatever.
It is
Time
Wednesday, my
obvious-
dudes.
I was sick, so that probably.
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah, it was almost definitely while you had a day off for being sick.
Has Greg gotten better at League of Legends?
Okay, so I was on my day off, not
Mhm.
not at work, and I was playing some League of Legends, and I have like my friends list in League of Legends set up in 2 categories. There's one that is just general,
Mhm.
and there's 75 people in there. I don't know who most of them are. And then there's one category of 11 people that's people that matter, and like Scott and all those people are in that one.
Yeah, the people you're actually going to play with.
Right, people. If I see them online, I'm like, let's play a game.
Mhm.
Then everyone else is just like random idiots who added me after a game because I played well or whatever. But some like there are some accounts that I didn't know who they were, so they just stay there. But when I added some people ages ago, I put a note on them, and Greg has changed his name, so it's not Lord's Legends anymore.
Yeah, I told you guys he
on
rebranded.
Right,
Yeah.
but I didn't know, I forgot that I had him on my friends list on League of Legends, and I just saw someone who I hadn't seen before in my general part of my friends list, and I like hovered over them, and I had a note set that said Greg, and I was like, that's Greg Blaney.
You're like, what?
And he was sitting in an open lobby, like waiting for people to join with 2 other people, so I just hopped in, and I was like, what's up, fuckers, let's play League of
Excellent.
and like so I through we played a couple games, and I was like, Scott, get in here, I'm playing with Greg, and Greg is a very casual League of Legends player.
Mhm.
And,
I bet if you asked him, he wouldn't say that though.
probably not, but he'll never listen to this show.
It's true.
So yeah, but he's a pretty casual League of Legends player, and his rank definitely reflects that, as does his experience with the game.
Dunks,
There's no nice way to say it. All right, he's kind of bad.
Okay, got it.
But anyway, so Scott and I were like, yo, let's carry the shit out of these. So it's just kind of is that way with a couple of our friends now, just because we have a lot more experience playing. So anyway, we popped in, and Scott and I just like hard carried the shit out of a couple games. It was pretty fun.
That sounds fun. What does Greg typically play?
He plays 80 carries.
I think he was trying to get mid too.
Probably, but he ain't getting.
But
He didn't take it.
but you got it every time.
Yeah.
And we weren't 5 stacked either, so it could have put Greg at mid.
Yeah.
Excellent.
I think he plays like Misfortune, stuff like
Cool.
marksman character. He did fine, his friends did
Yeah,
fine.
no.
But
He
Scott
plays a
and I
lot, so I
carried it.
imagine he's not like terrible. He's just like
No.
No.
That's not what I meant.
I know. I'm not putting words in your mouth. I'm just saying, like, he's probably fine. He's just having. I'm sure
What-
he was
like,
stoked to
what-
play with you guys.
I mean, everyone sucks compared to the top 10 players in the game.
It's true. Like Tony Horvath and Scott Guthier.
No,
As far as I'm concerned, hey, dude, as far as I know, y'all the best League of Legends players I ever seen. Okay.
We're not even the best League of
Yeah,
Legends
right.
players we've played against.
I don't want to steal the spotlight from Scott, but I don't know if we're going to circle back around to League of Legends. So I just want to put it out there, like, as we're here talking about.
Yeah.
I'm going through this weird phase right now where I am now better at a different character than I ever was with Asol.
Weird. What character?
Yeah, right. It's Rise.
Oh, the
It's
guy
just
that you were talking about last week.
Yeah.
Nice.
I played so much, like 85% of all my games in the last 30 days have been with him. And there's like it's weird to see growth like that happen quickly. Like, and I think it makes sense for a player like me who plays one champion. That's it.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, Rise is equally as uncommonly played and has an even lower win rate in total, like across all games, than Asol had when I was playing him. But the play styles are pretty similar. It's just the strengths of the champions are a little bit different. And I think that character lets me focus more on the macro game, which is something that which is like objectives, farming, going for like, key objectives at key times, keeping vision and like keeping track of the enemy,
Mm-hmm.
which I did on Aurelion Soul, but because of like the the more intensive like micromanagement of your champion that is required to play Asol. I didn't have as much like brain space because I'm actually bad at the game.
Tony, what you're saying is ASOL was like your like training weights that you've been carrying with you this whole time, and now you've just taken off your 50-pound
like
training weights and
that's
you're
definitely
free.
a thing, right? Like Asol, like when people were I would ask ages ago, like, should I play this champion? The response is like, learn how to play the champion. If you want to learn how to fight correctly, continue to play the champion and then switch to something else. Because the way that Asol works with how you have to position to make himself do damage forces you to be good at positioning in fights. So when you then take that skill set and put it on a champion that has a slightly different way of doing that and requires like maneuverability and good positioning, you have such a big advantage because you're already so used to being in that spot. So then you're able to kind of like take those skills that you already have and then move them into something that's a little bit more versatile. So it's interesting to see growth like that happen so quickly.
That's really cool,
when
though.
you've been playing something for so long. And I think the thing that, and I think I was mentioning this to Scott just before we started the show, is like the thing that really that made me notice that like I had improved a lot and made me go look at more like metrics, because League of Legends has like really in-depth
Infinite
stat
metrics.
tracking.
Yeah.
Like every game you play is aggregated on a website, and they can tell you exactly where your strengths and weaknesses are.
Yeah.
Like as like an index of your play style over thousands of games. And I have this program that I've had for forever called Blitz, which just pulls up some information about the game and stuff as you're loading in, so you can see some. I don't use that for that as much anymore, but they added this new feature where it will track your creep score per minute as you play through the game and compare it to a subsection of the community. So, your creep score per minute is like how many minions you're killing each minute for money, which is like the main way you get gold.
So we're talking last hits here.
Right. Yeah, you're farming. And like a typical like silver player has like 4 to 6 CS per minute. A top pro, that the benchmark is like 10 plus.
Damn.
10 in 10 minutes 104 minions spawn. So 10 CS per minute is basically perfect CS.
Damn.
So mine used to be like 6.5 to 7. And now mine every game is like 8 plus, which is really good for where I'm at in the game.
For you, is it like, I know that playing Asol was so like challenging, and I think that was satisfying for you. Are you still like having fun, like feeling that same kind of mechanical satisfaction from playing Rise? Or
I think so, because he's a little bit more spammy, but it's kind of like the spamming is the way that his abilities work is he has 3 abilities. One is just a projectile he shoots forward that does damage and hits the first thing that it comes into contact with and does damage to it. Second one is this thing where you put a debuff on an enemy that if they already have Flux, which is the third ability, it will root them, but otherwise it just slows them. Third one is Flux. It puts this little circle on an enemy and also spreads to all the enemies around it. And gives them all the same Flux debuff, which then if you hit something that's fluxed, it gets rooted. Big thing is if you hit something that's fluxed with your first ability, the projectile then jumps to everything in range that's also fluxed.
That's cool.
The other big thing is every ability that's not the projectile one that he casts resets the projectile. So you can you can throw projectile, flux a group of enemies, and then throw the second projectile, which then hits the entire group of enemies. So you just spam that out because every second ability that you cast resets the first ability. So you can just rapid fire out like 6 abilities and do a bunch of group damage, or you can kind of like weave your spells together differently depending on what you want, what desired effect you want. If you want more damage or you want a stun or something like that.
When you hit them with the skill shot, is the flux dissipated?
Yeah, the flux goes away, but it does a bunch of damage.
Okay, cool.
So like the big thing you want to like you can kind of figure out is in a team fight. If you're not the one being attacked, you're constantly putting this debuff on the entire enemy team that's close to each other, and then hitting them all with the ability over and over and over again.
Yeah.
So he's constantly just doing insane damage.
That's awesome.
And it's got enough flexibility that it makes it interesting over a lot of games.
That is cool. What's his ultimate?
Yeah, so you'd be thinking, right, like with a champion that has these 3 abilities that are so packed full of damage, what's the sugar on top, right? Like what's going to make him?
You know what Daddy wants.
The thing about Rise is he doesn't have it.
He doesn't have an ult?
He has an ultimate, but it's one of those ultimates that doesn't affect combat as much. Okay. So it doesn't do any damage. His ult does 0 damage. What it does is it's a short range teleport, but you basically pick a point on the map near you, and it puts a circle on the ground, and then like a second and a half later, anything in the circle that's friendly gets teleported to wherever you picked. So you can teleport your whole team into a fight, or you can teleport yourself and minions under a turret to take a turret. Or, just that kind of stuff. Or you can teleport yourself forward just to finish off a kill or something like that. But it's that delay, and people have to get in a circle, and you move it around. But it doesn't do any damage, but it allows this like positioning and mobility and that kind of stuff, and roaming potential and kill finishing potential that Asol had in spades. So it kind of channels a bit of his kit into this new champion, which is really an older champion, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, that's cool though. I like that. And I like the champions, like same with like something like Overwatch or things that are built around like an ultimate ability. I like ones that kind of break the mold from what you'd normally expect.
Yeah, he's a cool champion, and definitely not the one that I expected I would swing to.
Mm-hmm.
It's just kind of one that I was like, I guess I'll try this guy. The mid lane player who I follow the most closely in pro play, that's his main, so let's give it a shot.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's pretty neat. Anyway, Scott, you can talk about League of Legends.
Scott, how do you feel about League of Legends?
I was, done talking about it the second we mentioned Greg, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, I get you. I totally get you. That's cool. I'm glad you guys play with him. That's funny. I love that.
And he was never seen again.
And he was never heard from again. He's over at my house like 3 times a week. So.
What the fuck?
Yeah, he hangs out with Ethan. He doesn't hang out with me. So.
Okay, fuck you, right?
Yeah. Anything else, Scott?
No, not really.
Nothing on your Switch? Nothing distracting you?
I've been slowly chugging through Baba's You with a broken controller.
Yeah, that's right. We gotta get your controller fixed, sir. Is it the Joy-Con drift?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can send it in. They'll fix it for free.
Yeah, I believe I started that process, and then I needed packing tape.
Yep.
Not tape, but like they asked for a specific type of packaging. Then I lost the email. I don't know how that happened.
All right, maybe.
But it happened.
Okay, life happens. It comes at you fast.
Life is a highway, dude. I want to ride it all night long.
All night long. Cool. What are you in for Luigi's Mansion 3? I think I asked you this last time, Scott, but I'm asking again.
Yeah, and I'm also going to be picking up a pro controller for a couple of things because I have the tools to set up my Switch to one of these monitors.
Yeah. It's just like a matter of doing it.
Or view it through the Elgato.
Mm-hmm. Just bump up that kickstand, buddy.
So
throw it on the desk and get that pro controller. Little feeble kickstand that's just doing its best.
I'll try it, guys.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm going over to Mike Burgess's house on Mike Burgess of irrationalpatch.com on the 31st when Luigi's Mansion 3 comes out. We're going to just play and stream it all day because there's a local 2-player co-op in that game. And it's going to be fun. But yeah, I want to know your thoughts. So I've been replaying the first Luigi's Mansion for book club. I just finished it this week. We're probably gonna have our discussion on it tomorrow night. That game's so good. Like, still,
it plays really well.
It plays really well. It looks really good. It's like a 20-year-old video. That game came out in 2001. Like, it is insane how old that game is. There's still no other video game like it except for Luigi's Mansion 2. So that's why, honestly, replaying the first one makes me want to go buy the second one and play it because I still never played it. I just don't.
Ah, shit! I think I can let you borrow mine.
Yeah, I don't know if I would want to play all that Luigi's Mansion just before 3 comes out. I might just wait and play 3.
Yeah, that's a good idea. You're a bit late on it.
Yeah, it's
Having a reference for 1 is good enough.
Yeah, and it like
because they changed it up by quite a bit in 2, and I wouldn't say they did a giant disservice to it, but it's
different.
It's different in its entirety.
Yeah,
there is no attempt to be a G-rated scary thing, like at all.
Yeah.
No more tank controls.
No.
And then it's like a score game. Each level gives you a score rating. It's a score chasing game.
Yeah, I think 3 seems a little bit more in line with the first game of like you're just kind of progressively moving through this one environment, like this one place, which I'm into.
Yeah, so it's the 2 still plays very well, but it's almost, aside from the fact that you're using the vacuum, it's almost nothing like the first one.
Yeah, okay, that's fair. That's what I've heard, and that's the reason why I didn't play it. Like, I know you liked it a lot, but it was just a thing of like, I don't know if this has the things that I liked about the first one in it, aside from like, hey,
it doesn't.
You bust up ghosts. But yeah, the third one definitely seems like
it doesn't.
Like meshing the first concept and the second concept and bring them together. And it's got
honestly,
Luigi.
if they could fit essentially every element from both into one game,
it'd be a damn fine video.
Because it's not like they threw, aside from the control scheme, it's not like they threw a ton of conflicting elements in there.
Yeah. It's just great. Like, I don't know if you were here the week I mentioned it, but it's just like having played Luigi's Mansion in a world after I've played the Resident Evil games. Like, it's crazy to see how much those games are like, hey, we want to make our own like G-rated Resident Evil, and how much they kind of like nailed it. Totally like different moment to moment gameplay, but
on an idea saying, hey, let's make a G-rated Resident Evil game, like definitely for the little kiddies.
Yeah.
On a surface, that pitch sounds like it would fail, like it'd flop hard.
It turns out all you need was that Nintendo polish, and you got it. It shows too. Like that game is still very polished, I think, to this day. And I've just been playing the original GameCube version. I didn't play the 3DS remake. But yeah, I was just curious. I'm mapping out in my head what the next Scott Guthier video game is going to be.
Oh, that's it right there.
That's it right there. Tony, do you have like the next Tony Horvath video game in your head?
Like just new video game that's coming out.
New video game that's coming out that you were like all in on.
Animal Crossing.
Gotta wait till March. Nothing in between then and now?
Not that I know.
Okay. Speaking of you, Tony, have you been playing any video games?
Yeah, League of Legends, as we've heard.
Yeah, I heard about that.
Though, to Alex's disappointment, I've already fallen off of Destiny.
No, I have zero surprise in my heart. It's fine.
I finished the story, and then I was like, right, there's nothing to do now. All right, cool.
Now you just make the numbers go up. That's it.
Yeah, and like I'm all about getting the numbers to go up, but I don't have enough time to get the numbers to go up to like go to the raids and blah, blah.
I get you.
So eventually, maybe, but
I knew that was a tough sell for you at this point, and plus, like,
able to like justify going for it hard from the beginning. So I'm not. That just doesn't in the PC community. In the way that those groups work. Just if you're not like at the forefront in the gaming communities that we play in, it's like, well, it's going to be tough for you to find the right group.
Yeah.
Because the people who you're supposed to play with are already all done with everything.
Yeah.
So
the only exception in those kind of groups is kind of me.
Yeah.
And I wasn't on with him in this one.
Yeah. It's fine. Like, I get the same thing. Like, I'm lucky that And it's to some extent like with vanilla Destiny 2, I feel like you certainly pushed on and like you were like max level and running the raids over and over again every week or whatever. But like I feel like we had a nice group of people that were like kind of on the same page as we were going through
Yeah.
week to week.
Yeah, if I was able to play in a group like that, I think I would still be playing.
Mm-hmm. But it's
But
tough.
yeah, it's just I'm on the wrong console for that and stuff like that. So
Mm-hmm.
it kind of is what it is, and it's not a big deal. I'm not super torn up about it. Like the game I'm gonna boot up when I get home from work or whatever and don't have a lot of time is not Destiny.
Yeah.
I'm gonna play a game of League or two or whatever, then go to.
Yeah. I'm excited. I mean, we'll talk about it a little bit when we get to my games, but we're doing our first attempt at the raid tomorrow. And just about everyone is at least high enough to get in. We only have one person that's like pretty low, but we were all.
What is the like? You have to be this to get in.
So you have to be 920 to get in. The recommended is 940. But we all like we have like a raid DM.
I'm at like 880.
Hell yeah. Let's go all the way. No, you like we have a group DM on Twitter of like our raid team that we did the Forsaken raid with, the Last Wish.
Mm-hmm.
And that was just like a group of people that like I said, hey, I'm doing this. I'm doing it blind. Who's in? And they were the people that volunteered. And we've like stayed and talked about Destiny, and like we've had that group thread going for like a year now.
Cool.
So like we have a pretty nice group of folks that like 3 of them have already run and finished the raid, and it's like they have their hardcore group that they are max level and run with, but they still play with us, and for mostly just those big raids or just like picking up some crucible matches or something. So I get it. If you don't have that, like, that is an impossible game to play. I think like I would not be as into Destiny as I am still today if I didn't like necessarily have that group around me. So I get you.
Yeah.
Anything else you've been playing?
No, yeah, I've been playing some Clash of Clans, boys.
Fuck yeah.
I was gonna send a picture to our group chat the other day, but I just didn't take the picture. I installed on my computer BlueStacks, which is a popular Android emulator for PC. That it's just easy to install, and then you sign into your Google account, and then you
already back on the Android emulation for Clash of Clans, dude, huh?
Yeah. So since I have my main account, and then I have one like mini base that I'm working. That's lower town hall level, but I just donate back and forth from the higher account to the lower account while I'm farming on the lower one to kind of like I'm doing like an experiment with this one where I'm not upgrading any defenses or anything. I'm just rushing super hard, but like strategically rushing. So I'm upgrading offenses and stuff, and then just moving up to the next town level. So we're gonna just kind of seeing how that goes on that one account, and then on the other one, I'll have one open on like one of my computer screens all the time, pretty much, and then the other one is on my phone, and I'll just switch between whatever I need. So I've got that going, and I had like something on my middle screen, and then on both of my side screens, I had a different Clash of Clans base up on 2 instances of BlueStacks. That's what I was gonna take the picture of and send it to you guys and be like, "Yeah, you guys clash."
You guys in? You like where are we clashing?
You up?
Thank you for not doing that. I'll just say it. Thank you for looking out for us.
Yeah, man. But yeah, so it's funny because I've done a lot of reading of. There's been a lot of content put out for not necessarily. I mean, like content put out by content creators and like statistic analyzing Redditors and stuff for Clash of Clans over the couple years since I last played it.
Mm-hmm.
And there are 2 sides of the fence, it seems, when it comes to how you should progress in the game. And there is the majority, which like are hard stuck, like when you're at a town hall level, you max out every single building for that town hall level and all your hero levels and all that, and like get all the lab research, and then you move up to the next town level and repeat. Which is kind of like the accepted, like, this is how you should do it. You make your base as strong as possible, make your offense as strong as possible, then you go on to the next one and do the same thing. That way you experience, all of the stuff as you go. Then there's like a 10% of the community, that is like, that's a terrible, inefficient way to. You end up wasting a ton of time and resources, and the best resource is time. You know,
Yeah.
it is. One upgrade timers are like 6
Mhm.
minutes. So I've been like following this one guy, like dude's like whole. He has like a daily blog of like his one like account that he's going from new to Town Hall 12, which is the highest it gets now, in like 18 months or whatever to max. And he's got like all these guides on like how to efficiently do this, and like what you should and shouldn't skip, and what's worth it and what isn't worth it. So I've been going through this, and he's been kind of convincing me as I've read more and more of his stuff on like how to progress. And the thing about Clash of Clans is once you put a new building down or an upgrade is completed, you can't go back. So if you put a bunch of time into a base and then you switch the way that you're going to run it, it's a huge investment if like you do it and then it's all fucked up.
Yeah.
So I've been like I was reading a bunch of stuff that he's putting out, and like kind of just going through stuff and kind of like doing my own math and thinking about the way that war weights work and all of this like math behind the scenes of Clash of Clans, of like how the actual numbers of the game, it's like idle game shit, number crunching shit.
Idle game theory. This is what I'm talking about right now.
Idle game theory YouTube channel.
We gotta wait. Take the stream down. We gotta patent this.
Put it up.
I gotta email a copy of the stream to myself.
Yeah, right. But anyway, so I've gone through all this stuff, and it's funny because I'm in a war clan that I just went on Reddit. They have like a clans recruiting subreddit, and I went on one, and I was like, the one that seems like they got their shit put together in their recruitment post, I'll just join them. So I joined them, and they're a pretty cool bunch of dudes, but they're like a whole. It really is that way where like 50 people, there are like 2 of us that are like, this is the way you should play, and then the other 48 are like, you max, dude, like you're fucking yourself up. So I came in, and I've been doing a ton of research on like how attacks and stuff work, and I have some old knowledge. So I'm kind of like teaching people how to do these attacks that I've just known how to do from forever ago. And so I've kind of like, now that it's been a couple weeks, gained enough clout in the clan where like they know that I kind of know what the fuck I'm talking about. I'm not just like the new guy coming in and doing bullshit.
I love this. I love this story so much.
So anyway, the first test of the waters that I did, right, was I was talking to the clan leader, who is very much hard stuck, like you max and then you move up, right? Which as a clan leader, that makes sense. You don't.
You got to tell people what to do.
If you are bad at the game or don't have the specific, like there's a specific way that you need to do it if you want to not max, and if you don't do it that way, you're completely fucked.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's a certain way to do it right, and if you upgrades the wrong things that you shouldn't really upgrade and stuff like that, or don't do things in the right order, you're gonna get to a point where you're just screwing yourself over in the long game. And there are very specific reasons why rushing makes sense, and if you're not taking advantage of those specific reasons, there's no point to do it. So as a general rule of thumb, you should always tell people not to, right? So and there's this hard rule for a lot of clans, and ours follows the same one, where in Town Hall 9, which is the town hall that I just left, I was Town Hall 9 last week, now I'm not. When that's like the first like big boy Town Hall level. When you get to that point, your stuff actually starts to matter, where Town Hall 8 and lower is like you don't matter, because anyone above you can just wipe the floor with you no matter what. That's still the same at Town Hall 9, 10, and 11, but it's way more the case for 8s and lower. Like I can sneeze on a Town Hall 8 and they just disintegrate.
I love that. Shut them down.
Where I need to like hack a cough or two against the Town Hall 9 and then they disintegrate. But if I look at a Town Hall 7 funny, then their account gets deleted. So that's like basically the power levels start to matter at Town Hall 9. And the big thing, and it's not the same, it's not the case now, but it was the case years ago, where a lot of this old math that a lot of people still follow comes from. The big buildings that mattered were, you get these crossbow buildings at Town Hall 9, Expos, which are
you told us about the Expos.
Yeah, they're a really good defensive troop or defensive building, and the big thing that matters about them is that they carry a hidden stat called your war weight, which isn't super hidden, but the amount that each building gives is hidden. So when you put those down, the weight of your base goes up by a lot. So you get matched up against other people in the matchmaking that have similarly, more defended bases.
Yeah.
So dropping
You're
those,
putting a new
since they're
heavyweight
such-
class.
right? Since you're putting those two buildings down voluntarily and increasing that number by a lot with each one, a lot of clans will have very strict requirements on like when can you drop your expos, and a lot of the time, if you upgrade from Town Hall 8 to Town Hall 9, it's like, upgrade, but don't drop your new defensive buildings yet, and you'll just go to like an 8.5 while you upgrade your offenses to match, which makes sense. That's a good idea.
Yeah.
To transition now.
So that way
But
you're
a lot
not
of
like
people
thrown
will
against
just,
people that'll
right,
dominate
because a
you.
lot of people will, like, when they upgrade to new Town Halls, just drop everything that's new, and that can screw you over if you don't do it right. So that's like, so I was talking to the guy, and I was like, and the big thing is they also changed these numbers. Like last year, they made it so that the expos and stuff don't weigh nearly as much as they used to. So I think that now it makes more sense to just drop them when you get there, because it helps your farming a lot more. People are less likely to attack you, take as much of your shit. And if that's your goal, is to farm well and upgrade efficiently, that's what you want. Where most defenses don't matter, expos will make a difference sometimes. But anyway, so I was talking to him, and I was like, we went through this long debate about, like, what's the difference between Town Hall 8.5, Town Hall 9, when should you drop expos? What's the point of getting your heroes to this specific level before you drop expos, blah, blah, blah. So we had this long, heated discussion about it. And I was like, okay. And from the whole conversation, I gauged, like, okay, he's going to get fucking furious if I don't do things the right way, and I'm not going to be in the clan if I do things the right way, or if I do things the wrong way, or if he finds out that I'm doing things the right way anyway. So I'm kind of flying under the radar right now and just doing my own thing. Like, I didn't tell anybody that I was upgrading to Town Hall 10. I just did it. And I didn't max out Town Hall 9, but the big difference is Town Hall 10, you get a third Dark Elixir drill, which is huge. When you're going for loot, Dark Elixir is the main resource that you upgrade your heroes with, which the only thing that really matters, Town Hall 9, 10, and 11, is upgrading your heroes. You have to go from no heroes to level 50 heroes, 2 level 50 heroes in 3 Town Halls, and then one other hero.
Sounds like a lot of grinding.
The Queen is an insane grind. Town Hall 9, so at Town Hall 8 or 7, you get your Barbarian King, and you can go to level 5. At Town Hall 8, you can get him from level 5 to level 10. Maybe level 15, I don't know. It doesn't matter. At Town Hall 9, you can go to level 30 on the Barbarian King, and you get the Archer Queen, who can go to level 30. So 50 new hero levels at Town Hall 9, which is insane. That's the most you ever get. At Town Hall 10, both of those heroes can go up to level 50, or to level 40. So that's only 20 levels. So a lot of people will go to Town Hall 9, stay there for forever, and max out everything else. But since they're waiting for their heroes to upgrade for so long, since they have to get chugged through 50 levels on their heroes, they just sit there with maxed storages and, not getting as efficient resources. And since they all cost Dark Elixir, that's all that matters, is getting Dark Elixir. At Town Hall 10, you get the third drill. Third drill really matters because a maxed Town Hall 10 drill gives you 4,000 Dark Elixir, give or take, a day. So three of them are like 9,000. So that's 9,000, and to get your hero upgrading every single time it comes off cooldown is like you have to farm 25,000 Dark Elixir a day up to a point, and then it gets more. So if I've got 3 drills, I only have to farm 16,000 a day, which is way easier. And the more important part is the enemies that I'm attacking, they also have 3 drills, which are, when I'm looking for bases and looking for bases that haven't been touched in a couple days, so the collectors are full. So they've got, on average, an extra 1/3 Dark Elixir for me to steal. So every raid I can be more efficient and max out my shit, so I don't have to worry too much. I get to raid more efficiently, get more resources, and upgrade more efficiently than if I were sitting at Town Hall 9 with nothing to upgrade and wasting golden elixir.
Yeah.
That's like the surface level.
I see the
of all
debate
this
now.
stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
But and I think the big difference is I can in wars, I can still get 3 stars against my mirrors, which is really big. So someone with a similar war weight to my base, I can still clear their entire base, which most people can't. Most people have to attack down.
Yeah.
So I think that's the big difference. Is I actually have the knowledge or the desire to learn how to farm to attack correctly and do the attacks correctly to support doing a different strategy than just maxing my base and kind of hedging my bets.
Yeah. I say you do you. I think that's a good strat.
So yeah, I think that it's interesting that there's a lot of depth to it, and going a different path is interesting. Like I said, I haven't told anybody that I'm doing it.
I'm sure your clan is all listening.
Yeah, right. They found out.
They found you.
So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it progresses because it isn't at the end of the day. Upgrade timers are several days, right? Like to upgrade the town hall took 6 days.
Yeah, it's a process.
So it'll be a several month process to kind of see how it pans out. But I'm pretty sure I'll just kind of stop. As long as it keeps working, I'm probably just gonna not worry about defenses as much and just kind of continue on with the offense, the strategic offense rush kind of thing, and just see where it ends up. So
cool.
Be cool. Yeah, we'll see.
We shall. I wish you luck. I hope that it pans out.
There you go. There's your Clash of Clans info dump.
Yeah, my Clash of Clan update. Finally, I've been waiting my whole life for this.
Yeah, right. Several years at least.
Anything else you've been playing?
No, that's it. I mean, like I said, it's still just the game that I play when I'm at work.
Yeah, I gotcha.
And it's really good at that still. Like even if they've been asking me to come to do wars because they know at this point that I will bring home the stars and help win wars, and they won't have to carry me if they put me in.
Yeah.
So you go in. It's nice because like today when I was at work, I was like getting close to. I'm gonna be done in a couple hours. I was like, and I know that the war was happening today. I was like, okay, let me just get on the game real quick, start training both of my war armies. So when I get home, I'm ready to just do a couple war attacks. Everything's already ready to go. So, and I can just do that throughout the day is just, get on, do my quick maintenance, maybe do an attack and then just wait till later. So it's a great way to just kind of fill time and kind of take your mind off of endless work. So,
yeah, cool. I played some video games.
Tell me about them.
I got back into the Dark Souls 3 with Justin, friend of the show. And that's been fun. We didn't get much farther into it. I'm curious because I've been thinking about it a lot. And I think like Dark Souls 3 is definitely like your Dark Souls game, Tony. I obviously associate you a lot with it. What with you getting the platinum and playing through it like 12 times.
More than Bloodborne?
No, Bloodborne's its own thing.
I feel like I failed Bloodborne now.
No, I'm saying of the Dark Souls games specifically. Bloodborne is its own thing.
Fine. All right, fine.
But I always associate Bloodborne with you, Tony. You know that. Where do you have like a favorite part of Dark Souls 3?
I really like the whole beginning section of the game. I think it starts really well for a Dark Souls game.
Yeah, I agree.
But I think that my favorite part of the actual like Dark Souls, like the favorite section, I don't know if there's like a favorite like section and then boss, that I would say is like that was the best part.
Sure.
But I think that from the time that you go through the kind of dungeony areas underground, there's like the boss fight with the big ass dude. It's been a while since I played Dark Souls 3. Yeah, I know. It's been a while since I played Dark Souls 3, and a lot of this information is just kind of out of my head right now.
Yeah, I gotcha.
But there's the one where it's like in the one in the really, really dark room against the big ass dude, like the big fucking motherfucker.
Oh yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. The big giant skeleton with the rings.
The area, yeah. The area preceding that, like the really like dungeon crawly area, that part through the end of like Anne Orlando, that whole section in the middle where you go through that whole dungeon area, you come out, then you see that vista of the city, and then you fight your way through the city and do those couple fights in the middle there. That's probably my favorite experience of Dark Souls 3.
Yeah.
If I had to pick a favorite boss, I think I'm pretty well on record as saying, and this is all just vanilla, base Dark Souls.
Yeah.
Um, in saying that the Nameless King is my favorite Dark Souls boss of all time,
Yeah. Yeah.
other than Lady Maria, who is great.
Yeah. The goat.
Yeah, and that a lot of that Bloodborne expansion stuff is 10 out of 10.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man. I don't know what it is with From Software and DLCs, but man,
Right, the DLCs are
they're
good.
so good. Like Dark
But
Souls 2 and 1 as well, like stellar DLCs.
yeah, and then like that whole Anor Londo section, and then going up the tower, and then fighting the knights on the stairs.
Yeah.
On your way in, and getting the that's what the Nightblade cult and all that stuff is right there. That whole section around there is probably peak Dark Souls for me.
Cool. Yeah, I'm excited. Justin doesn't know about Honor Orlando and stuff, but like he's guessed because when we were playing through Dark Souls 1, he's like, this place seems like a big deal. I'm like, yes, this is a big deal. Will be important. You'll see it later as we go through it. But like going through it again, I feel like Dark Souls 3 is just the one that I am the least familiar with. Even having like years.
But it's also the thing. Like Dark Souls 3 is going to be the one that it's the most recent one, so it's not the one that you're like, I'm going to go nostalgia play this.
Yeah,
it's like I'm going to go back and play Dark Souls.
Yeah,
it's not. I'm going to go back and play Dark Souls.
It's very much it's nice because it just feels like a modern video game in a way.
It definitely does.
Yeah. It's been fun. Like, I definitely had like my come to my senses moment with Dark Souls 1 of like, man, like level design, this, that, like many things about that game are just not as good as the sequels.
It's been like 3.5 years too since Dark Souls 3 came out.
Yeah, it came out in 2016. So. It's crazy.
Right. And like I was trying to tell you, man.
No,
good reason I enjoyed Demon's Souls over Dark Souls 1.
Yeah, and like to be fair, I think Demon's Souls is worse than Dark Souls 1 in a lot of ways, but I know where I have a better appreciation for where you're coming from, Scott.
Yeah. I think a lot of like one of the like poster child boss fights for Dark Souls 3 is the Abyss Watchers, and I think it's a cool fight.
Yeah.
But
when we were watching
it's definitely the Nameless King for me.
Yeah, when we were watching the opening cutscene and it was going through like here are the 4 things you got to kill, which turns out that's just every Dark Souls game. It like when it showed the Abyss Watchers, I'm like, yeah, that's gonna be a good fight. He's like, oh, those dudes look cool. I'm like, yeah, they are cool. So thinking through it, like playing through the beginning of the game is great, right? I totally agree, and it starts strong, and like. Again, that game's so weird for me because it is kind of more like a straight shot toward the end. And then obviously you kind of loop back around and go through some of those opening areas like in a different direction.
Yeah.
But it makes it harder for me to remember like what areas are connected to each other. The thing I remember the most and I really like is like the forest area, which is usually not the case for Dark Souls, but like that ends in the Abyss Watcher fight. And like the big like fire pylon things that you got to light in the forest in Dark Souls 3, like that was really cool.
I think it was one of the more bearable forest sections
for sure
out of the Dark Souls games.
Yeah,
I like that one. I like the big ass demon fight up on the wall you can do there to get the dragon crest shield.
Yeah,
I hate that this information is coming back into my head.
I love it. This is what I needed because I don't have as much of a point of reference, but like thinking about section to section to section, like I know the beginning and then like that village area, the second area.
Yeah, and then you walk through that swamp and fight like random ass like they're basically like other player character dudes.
But like I forgot about the swamp. I know about like that cathedral, like the first optional section. And like that's as far as I can remember.
Oh man, that cathedral is some good shit. Man.
Yeah, some real good shit.
It's where you get one of the curved swords. It's one of the best PvP weapons. You have to farm it in there. It's just fucking annoying.
Yeah. See, that's all the farming stuff.
There's that, and like there's the whole church sections with the dudes with the Dragon Slayer longbow.
Yeah,
like running around. Yeah, there's some good shit in there.
Yeah, it's
really good boss fights in Dark Souls 3 too.
Yeah, I think like of the thing that I've like playing them all back to back to is like, man, Dark Souls 3 is truly like it's a different kind of video game because it happened after Bloodborne. Like the way enemy AI specifically works, and I know you haven't played 1 and 2 as much, Tony, but like the change of aggression for enemies is tenfold. Like they are way more aggressive in Dark Souls 3, which is cool. Like it makes things move at a faster clip, and it makes combat move by faster.
I do think that, like, especially in my time with Dark Souls 1, it is a lot. It is pretty like Shields, you know. There's a lot in Dark Souls 1 of like, if you want to play that way, you can just kind of like sit there behind your shield and wait for the right moment.
Yeah.
And a lot of enemies in that game definitely encourage that. I think that was a deliberate design decision with Dark Souls 1 that did not continue into 2.
Yeah, 2 is way more aggressive.
Especially after Bloodborne.
Yeah.
I think, Dark Souls 3 is a shield game, but it is not a shield-focused game.
One of the things that you're right, for sure, especially with the magic meter back, like, it just changes the whole fucking thing. But one of the things we've been talking a lot, Justin and I, while we've been playing, is just, like, with all this, and, like, seeing how much they learned from, like, Bloodborne to Dark Souls 3, especially, like, man, I so fucking excited for whatever Elden Ring is going to be. And I don't know, like, I know it's not super on your guys' radar, and we haven't even seen what that game actually looks like yet. But just thinking about the kind of concepts of world design and interconnected worlds to translate into more of like what I would understand to be a traditional open world video game, like with horseback riding and traversal and like big areas and big ruins to explore. Like, if assuming that is a game with co-op and it is again one of these kinds of games, a Soulsborne kind of game. Man, like that just sounds so good. And it's been years since Dark Souls 3. It's like whatever Elden Ring is, like coming at the end of the console generation, presumably sometime next year. Like From Software has grown so much as a studio since Bloodborne alone. Like, God, am I so fucking excited to see what they can do. Yeah, like Sekiro, I love and adore. Like it's probably my favorite game this year still, because it is like it's different, and it is taking a lot of the things that I liked about level design in the Dark Souls games and making it more vertical. But just knowing like the kind of what is going into making a game like Elden Ring, even without having seen it, knowing From Software as a developer and knowing how they're probably going to approach a project like that, I'm just so excited about it. So yeah, I just want to bring that up to you guys, my Souls boys.
It's fun for like the funny thing about me with Souls games and Bloodborne specifically is my prevailing memory of that game. The farther away from it, like actually being in playing that game, getting the platinum, replaying that game, talking about that game on the podcast, replaying that game, which was like the whole cycle back then.
Mm-hmm.
The farther removed I get from that, the one prevailing thing about Bloodborne that like sticks with me is that like first playthrough of it, like after everyone else had played it, just being like tweeting at Alex like, hey, I killed this boss on my first try. What happened, dude? And, I thought you said this game was hard. And then going to the next boss and killing him on the first try again and tweeting it at Alex.
Yeah.
Then going through every boss in the game.
Yeah.
And never dying on a boss my first try. It was so fun.
Just rubbing the salt in the wound.
Like, it got to a point where I was, obviously after like the third one, I was trying super hard to one-shot every boss. As blind, one shot every boss blind.
I remember you were playing like so carefully by the end of that game.
Yeah, dude. Because I'd die, frequently outside of boss, but and I would get to a boss fight and be like, all right,
it's time to put my serious cap on.
Right. Like, how do I not fuck up? Because if I die, then all of
everything,
the whole bit is gone.
Wasn't worth it.
Yeah, and I was even posting them on YouTube, so I had accountability at that point too.
Yeah, I know.
I still have a lot of those videos, and this shit's fucking funny.
It's funny, and the thing is, like, comparatively, like me dying in Dark Souls versus me dying in Bloodborne, I die in Bloodborne way less. I don't know. I think it's just like the mechanics of that game just click with me more.
Mm-hmm. Then there's the fucking go through all the chalice dungeons and that fucking
the defiled dungeon. Yeah,
right? Yeah, dude.
You and I have such like trauma from that one fight.
Dude, I have an 11.5-minute video on me killing that boss on YouTube.
And it's like the most slow and steady.
It's because my like the weapons that I chose from my platinum playthrough just didn't work with that boss.
Yeah, that boss specifically. To be fair, that whole dungeon sucks.
Yeah,
so
it does. The whole dungeon does suck.
Yeah, I was like telling Justin, because Justin was like,
one of the most harrowing gaming experience that I've ever had is fighting through that fucking dungeon.
Yeah, it's awful. I was telling because Justin was like, should we do the chalice dungeons and like go for the platinum? I'm like, we can, but let me tell you about this one in the middle there.
Right.
And like,
listen, Justin, if you're watching, just hit me up on DM me on Twitter. I'll send you the videos of the last couple things in this one chalice dungeon. It's stupid.
it's stupid. And the thing is, like, some of the bosses that you only see in those dungeons and whatnot, like, they're really cool. And
yeah, like Yarnum's a cool fight at the end of the chalice.
Yeah.
At the end of the defiled dungeon.
It's just like not
Actually,
worth it.
Yeah, right. And the funny thing is the amygdala at the end of the defiled dungeon isn't even the hardest boss in that.
No,
she's just the most
annoying,
tedious one.
Yeah,
the one that will just make you pull your hair out because one
you
wrong
die in
step
one
and
hit.
you lose 8 minutes of fight.
Yeah,
the hard one's the wolf.
Yeah, the wolf is way
wolf
harder.
Will fuck you
The
up.
wolf is like traumatizing.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
Insane.
Yeah. I get you. I don't know. It's just playing through Dark Souls 3 again. Been so delightful. Playing through the series again has just been great. From Software just reinstating them. If there was ever any doubt, like one of the best developers out there, but one of my favorites for sure. So very excited about Elden Ring.
And just as we wrap up Dark Souls 3, by the way, one of the best magic systems in any video game.
Yes, agreed.
The Dark Souls stuff, the miracles and the pyromancy and stuff.
Yeah, so cool.
Good.
Yeah, and I've been playing like the games very differently as I've been playing through. I've been doing more of a strength build, as I mentioned to you, Scott. But I've been doing mostly strength and miracle builds.
Yeah, man, that old school strength.
Dude, when you go for the miracles are
They're
cool.
so cool.
And then when you don't go for the miracles, they're still cool. They just don't do any damage.
Yeah. It's cool. Like it's been really rad to like actually play around with the magic in those games because I did it in Demon Souls because it was fucking broken. But I've never really played with it in Dark Souls, and it's been cool seeing these aspects of these games I've just never even seen before. Yeah, that's Dark Souls 3. So also been playing Destiny 2. Obviously, we talked a lot about Destiny last week. I don't necessarily want to spend as much time about it. Just a few updates, right? If you're watching this live, we're going to be doing a raid attempt tomorrow, Sunday, October 13th. Very spooky. October 13th is a spooky day, right? It's 13th, like Friday the 13th. Ooh. It's gonna be fun. We're starting at noon Eastern time, and we'll see how long we go. Our hard out is 7 p.m., but apparently the raid is not as long as some of the other ones, so we will hopefully be able to get through it. But yeah, I'm excited about that. This is like the first time ever I've been like actually raid ready by the time I attempt the raid. Usually I'm like 10 power level below. But I'm actually like on recommended levels of 940. I'm 940, so
it makes such a crazy difference in that game too.
Yeah,
like those little that little amount of light levels when you actually get into the raid, it can make it so. And you've probably experienced it at this point, but if this is your first time going in, being like one of the only on par people, if not like at least in the majority of on par people, you'll feel it so hard how much you have to carry the people who are lower light level.
Yeah,
and it's crazy. It's very noticeable in Destiny, much more than a lot of other games that have similar mechanics.
Yeah, it is like you need to be ready for this when you get here. But like it's certainly doable outside of that. It's just
the Beast Garden in Callus's dungeon. When we went through with our group,
the 9 hours that we spent there.
Holy shit!
I think it was like 6 hours.
It really was, and it was all because of the gear.
Yeah,
like we had the tactics most of the time.
We had the mechanics.
You had to pass the damage checks, and man, that shit was very hard to do.
Yeah.
with our group's levels. It's crazy.
Yeah, it makes a huge difference. So I'm excited for that. We're probably only gonna have one person underleveled at this point. We'll see. We'll see where they're at tomorrow.
Well, that's odd to hear because when we did it on the PC group, we didn't have a problem with that.
Here's the thing: on PC, everybody's hitting shot.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, and that's just not that is not a given on a console, and it's not a bid. It's just the nature of is that shots aren't always going to hit, and that's not necessarily a player issue, but just a console issue. On PC, every person, and the people that we play with specific, regardless of gear, we're gonna hit shots.
Yeah.
And that's, if you're shots that you're hitting always do more damage than shots that don't hit. And on console, since people are not hitting all their shots, your gear matters a lot more because the shots that do hit have to matter.
Yeah. But I'm excited. So we talked a little bit about it briefly last week, but it just kind of happened. Was the Vex Offensive was like a new mode that they added. It's fine. It is not like the most interesting of their like kind of seasonal activities. So they've rolled out things like specifically the menagerie. I think is what most people think of now when they think of seasonal Destiny activities, because that's like the platinum tier, right? That is, there's a section of the Leviathan ship that has like all these different rooms that you go in a random order between the rooms, and each room is like this handmade encounter for a specific thing, right? Some have you doing one thing like getting items to break crystals to get another item to break a shield to beat a boss. Some have you protecting points from waves, and then getting artifacts to do other things. Very different encounters, and essentially if you do the menagerie, it makes you with 5 other people, and you can go from one room to the next, right? It takes you on a set path, and it generates that every time you enter, right? And the last thing you do in the menagerie is always like a weekly thing. They rotate it in every week, like a kind of final fight. And that is like the thing of that week. So you do 5 random encounters, or however many it takes to finish, and then the final boss. This is a little bit more straightforward, and we are still in we're only in week 2, so we don't necessarily know if it's going to change drastically week to week. But you go in, you do the first room of encounters, then you do the second room of encounters, which is the same again, and then you go to the third room, which is the boss. So it's just like, it is less interesting than the menagerie, and it feels like it takes a little bit longer. It takes like 15 minutes maybe. Menagerie you could get through in 10 or less typically, if you had like a pretty good squad that knew what to do. So I think it's just like, if we were comparing seasonal activities, Vex Offensive is just not as interesting as what they've tried and experimented with in the past. Hopefully, as the season goes on, like that will evolve and change, or like it'll be on a 3-week schedule, kind of like a lot of the other things in Destiny 2, and they will add new mechanics on a per week basis. But that's like the main thing that they've added and changed. It's really cool, just like the groundwork that they are laying to like, they're really committed to this seasonal content rollout, of like a reason for you to come and check in at least for a little bit every week. Like it definitely seems like once you hit 960, which is the max power, it might be 980 now, I'm not sure, but it seems like that is like the grind part is over, but there are new things to do that they are introducing every week, whether it be a quest from Eris Morn, like a specific different one each week, or this or that. They're adding new stuff, and things are changing in the background. Like in the tower, there's a thing being built now, and it is like slowly progressing as the weeks go on. So presumably by the end of this season, we will have watched this thing that will come into play next season, in a few weeks, like actually manifest and become a thing that you're going to interact with. So that's cool. Like they're committed to this in a way that is working and is more interesting than I thought it would be, as someone who like doesn't necessarily like to play a thing week to week. Like I like single player games, as anybody who listens to this show knows, you guys know, like I like to just play it, finish it, and be done. Destiny is like the weird outlier in all of my gaming that I stands out. Like we've talked about me struggling to get into MMOs in the past. Like it's an MMO that I ended up getting into. And they're like very much embracing that nomenclature now too, which is cool.
Well, at the same time, I wouldn't say you're unfamiliar with the style of it.
Yeah,
because at the end, it's all about the gameplay loop.
Yeah, sure.
So you're never against roguelikes.
Yeah, exactly. You're right.
So in that sense, the hook is the same.
Yeah. Just the hook of
And
Destiny's got me.
the added bonus is people to play with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's fair. Like I have a group, and I like none of them are going anywhere. It feels, it's and obviously I just love to play Destiny. Thinking about it, like, because I did my top 50 games of all time earlier this year, and like it was weird because when I was making that list, I was like, oh yeah, Destiny should be on this list. Like I don't think about it a lot, but like I put more time into Destiny than most video games. And I like love playing Destiny, just like mindlessly playing it or focus and playing it. Either way, like I love playing that game more than most video games. And that's cool. Like it's just Destiny is weirdly a thing that I kind of take for granted. Of like this is such comfort for me. Like and it is a thing I'm really into that it's the only game that I will pick up and play just a little bit of every week to see what's happening. And that's cool. Like I've never had a game like that really. At least not a game that's changing and evolving as it goes. But yeah, I like the stuff that they're doing with the seasons. I'm excited to check out the raid and obviously kind of see like this peak Destiny content. I'm a little sad that it is not as long, presumably not as elaborate as something like Last Wish, which was incredible. And that was like the last major raid that they put out. But I'm, going in with an open mind. So I'll report back next week and hopefully we'll have finished it and I'll have some full thoughts. And then after that, I'm thinking about maybe just writing something about Shadowkeep as a whole. Of like where I'm at with it, why I like it, why it's clicking with me, why the decisions that they made work for me. I'm curious, just sitting here and playing all this has me wondering what next year's Destiny experience looks like. Is it going to be a third expansion for Destiny 2, or is it time to make Destiny 3? Because it seems like it's time to make Destiny 3 because new consoles are coming out and kind of like a new platform to kind of start things off, but they've changed things in a way that I don't know if they can do the Destiny 2 thing again of like all your stuff doesn't come over.
Man, I for one really hope that when they make Destiny 3, they go with a very they change a lot.
Yeah.
Like that it comes with it, that it's a real refresh to the title. Destiny 1 was the pioneer.
Mm-hmm.
And it had a lot of problems that were fixed with the Taken King, and then they kind of took that formula and put it together for Destiny 2.
Yeah.
For the launch of that, making kind of the Destiny 1 that they wanted in Destiny 2.
Yeah.
And I hope that they have some innovation when going into Destiny 3. I hope that it's not just more Destiny 2 in a more in a nicer engine or whatever.
Yeah, it's curious. Like I'm curious to see where they go with it because like again I don't know if they're gonna do a Destiny 3, and like I'm not dying for it, right? Like I don't. If they just did more Destiny 2, like I would still be happy and I would still play it and I would still show up. But I don't know.
But I think there's a lot you can do with with space wizard, space opera shit.
Yeah, like
really that's what Guardians are, space wizard.
Yeah, they're space wizards.
I'm down with space wizards. I would love to see them explore that space more than they already have and take more risks.
Yeah, me too. I'm with you. I think I'm like more satiated by the content that they're putting out, but like I'd love to see something pretty balls to the wall. And like the thing that frustrates me the most as a lover of Destiny is like I think as far as they've made a lot of progress with something like Armor 2.0 as far as like giving you more agency of how to make your build.
Man, just make all armor 2.0. Don't make me re-get my shit. That was one of the main complaints that I had.
Yeah.
I got all this sick as fuck gear, vanilla Destiny armor, and all of it's useless because it's not armor 2.0.
Yeah.
When I feel like there was definitely a way that they could have just been all armor is now all armor is now 2.0, not just all armor 750, but your old armor is still kind of useless.
Yeah. So like, but lean into systems more like that. Like, I think giving the player a skill tree to actually like invest in would be good, and like Armor 2.0 is a little bit of that.
It would definitely be really neat to see them give players a little more agency as far as their subclass. I mean, they've done a lot for that in Destiny 2, so, but I'm talking like skill tree.
Yeah, exactly. I'm with you. I want a skill tree. I want a
Yeah.
web.
Yeah, I don't want to pick one cluster of 4 skills. I would like to mix and match at the very.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't the most that stuff annoys me is like there's a subclass that I really like, and then there's a subsection of that subclass, like a little cluster of 4 that I like 2 or 3 out of the 4 on, and then like one is a deal breaker on pretty much all of them. It was tough for me to find like one that I agreed with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I want to see. I think the thing that needs the most shakeup is like the classes and the subclasses, like the base player experience, right? Like they've never introduced a new race, they've never introduced a new class, and since the Taken King, they haven't introduced a new subclass. So I think and I know a lot of that is tied to like the elemental system in that game and the narrative of the world, but I think it is time to shake that up, and like those are the risks I want them to take. That and like getting between places, I would like to see them kind of change a little bit more. But I'm curious to see where they go from here, and I love the plan that they've laid out of like, here is how we're going to change the world as the season goes on. Here is how we're going to give you reasons to come back at least once a week, every week. And here is how like the seasonal content will lead. One season will narratively and mechanically lead into another, and that will introduce its own new systems and things like that. Like, I don't know what that transition is going to look like when we go to the next season, because that's like 60 days away. But I'm really excited to see what that looks like. But yeah, I don't know. Destiny 2 Shadowkeep is like, it exceeded my expectations in a lot of ways, and met my expectations in a lot of other ways. But I've had a really great time with it, and I'm just loving Destiny right now, and there's no better place to be. Like I was so worried 2 weeks before of like, do I really want to do this again? Like, I don't know if this is gonna be the thing that I want anymore.
I'm curious how many more times they can give you just more Destiny.
Yeah, me too. Like, I don't know when I'm gonna burn out at this rate.
Because for me, and it's obvious that it's already happened for me, but going in and be like, all right, time to sit on a load screen until I get into social area. Pick up quests and bounties, go to, quest area, do quest, do whatever it needs to be done, sit in my Sparrow or whatever, get back in my ship and wait through load screen to get back to social area to turn things in.
Yeah, I don't think of it like that, like the loop I'm so engrossed in, like that, like as Nabishin would put it, like the suspension of disbelief of the video game part of the video game. Like, I don't really notice it. I'm just in it and I'm playing it. So I think like once I start to feel that, that's when they're going to lose me. Right. But those are the things that like a new game or new consoles or like redesigning some of the base of what that game is. Those are the things that they can fix. Right. So we'll see. But yeah, I'm excited for the raid tomorrow. Hopefully it goes well. Hopefully we finish it and I get some dope drops.
I feel like historically speaking that is a tall order.
Yeah. Luckily, we've got some folks that have finished it already, so I have a little bit of faith in us.
Cool.
I will say, like, there's a new one of the big new exotics in Shadowkeep is the Monte Carlo, which is like,
oh, that gun is great.
It's fucking great.
It was always one of the more fun Crucible guns.
Yeah. And it is. I got it. Like Jake, who is one of our raid players, Jake Palmer, he he got it earlier in the week and messaged us about it because he was excited. And I had not heard of it, and I was like, "Oh fuck, this gun!" Because I love auto rifles. This gun is calling my name, and it's very cool. For folks who don't know, essentially, killing enemies with a gun will have a chance to a 50% chance, one or the other, to randomly bring back your melee ability. And killing enemies with your melee ability while the gun is equipped will reload the gun. So it's just feeds right into itself, and it's a great feeling. So I got that, and I got a less interesting exotic just within a minute of each other. Like it was like the most RNGesus smiled upon me. I got the random drop of the submachine gun exotic, and then I got the Monte Carlo from the powerful gear of finishing the strike that I was doing. And I was like, fuck. It was a glorious moment. It was 4 a.m. and I tweeted about it, so you can go look up that tweet. That's I think that's it for Destiny 2. Let's take a quick break, and when we come back, we can talk about a little bit of news, and if Namishin is going to be joining us, we can get to his games. So we will be back in just a little bit. Oh,
Choo.
oh, I messed it up. Wait, we're not back. We're not back yet. We didn't leave yet. I'm sorry to the video viewers that had to see me panic like that. Bye. Let's talk about PlayStation 5, which
Okay.
was technically announced this week. Did you guys hear about this?
Kind of, sort of, yeah.
No,
Yeah.
I did not hear about it at all.
So we talked about it earlier this year, it was a little while ago, but as a recap for anybody coming into this cold, the Sony did an exclusive interview with Wired, the magazine / website, earlier this year. I think it was over the summer. I feel like it was like June or May, where an editor from Wired, I forget who it was, but an editor from Wired got to sit down with Mark Cerny, who designed and did the architecture for the PlayStation 4. And they essentially got to one-on-one time spend some time with the next PlayStation dev kit, which at the time did not have a name, and kind of like show Cerny got to explain his pitch for like, hey, this is what we're doing, or at least like a very surface level. Here are some of the things that we are trying to do with the next generation hardware, but no other real information other than that. It was just weird because they technically had not announced the PlayStation 5 yet, and this was how they did it. So this week, I think it was Tuesday, Jim Ryan and Mark Cerny, it might have just been Cerny, sat down once again with Wired. This was, let me see if the writer's name is in here, because I have the actual Wired article pulled up. Peter. Wow, no last name here? Okay. But they sat down with Peter Rubin from Wired, and essentially were like, hey, this is the PlayStation 5. That's what it's called now. This is what it is. Go ahead and publish this weird, just written article about the PlayStation 5, and this is how we announce it. It's coming out holiday 2020. That's it. I don't necessarily want to dwell on that because I know that's like the easy thing. It just feels kind of anticlimactic, you know. I'm not saying everything needs to be announced in a way that, like the Xbox Scarlet, or Project Scarlet, which is the whatever the next Xbox is going to be called, which was unveiled officially at E3. You know, they had a video that played during Xbox's press conference that was like, hey, this is what we're doing. Essentially the same thing as that Wired article that we got earlier in the year, but like, you know, one of those techie like videos of developers or different people, like architecture people working on the hardware, but people also working on games, talking about like, hey, this is some of the things we're capable of doing on the new hardware. Comes out, it's codenamed Scarlet, comes out next holiday. So we got that at E3, and now we have this. So essentially we know Scarlet, PlayStation 5, launching holiday 2020, both of them. So presumably November, similar time frame to PS4 and Xbox One, but years and years later. So a lot of stuff, a lot of things to unpack in this deep dive that Wired had. I just wanted to kind of touch base with you all. I know console gaming is for the plebs, right? I understand you two have moved on to bigger, greener pastures, better things, where you just buy a new graphics card every other year or whatever.
Maybe, because what they're doing this time is in line with what Xbox said that they were doing.
Mm-hmm.
Remember how everybody was saying Xbox is making stupid, crazy claims again?
Yeah.
Again, maybe not.
Yeah, maybe not.
And the whole reason being is they're trying to do a hybrid RAM and hard memory storage setup.
Yeah. It's interesting. Like,
which could cut down on a lot of the processing needed for a whole, it's just across the board.
Yeah.
So the other parts do not need to be crazy high end to perform like your current high-end graphics card.
Yeah.
Which we should also say that I don't remember for which system it was or who was partnering with AMD to essentially put that in their system, but I did hear that.
Yeah. So like one of the benefits of that they explain, like Cerny explains pretty well. I'm gonna read a quote in a little bit of like how that like translates to like player benefit, right? Like they're talking about a feature here that I'm gonna again read what Cerny said, but it's like the first thing of like I didn't think of that, but that actually sounds pretty cool. So I'm going to read this graph from the Wired article. Regardless of what parts of a game you choose to install and play, you'll be able to stay abreast of it via a completely revamped user interface. PS4's bare-bones home screen at times feels frozen in amber. You can see what your friends have recently done, or even what game title they may be playing at the moment, but without launching an individual title, there's no way to tell the single-player missions you could do or what multiplayer matches you can join. PS5 will change that. It's a quote from Cerny here. Even though it will be fairly fast to boot games, we don't want the player to have to boot the game, see what's up, boot the game. That's weird. That's a weird sentence. Boot the game, see what's up, boot the game, see what's up. Essentially get in that loop. Multiplayer game servers will provide the console with a set of joinable activities in real time. Single-player games will provide information like what missions you could do and what rewards you might receive for completing them, and all of these choices will be visible in the UI. As a player, you can just jump right into whatever you like. So the idea being like, if your friend is playing, and they go into it a little bit more later in the article, but like let's say Scott is online and he's playing Elden Ring. Let's just use an example that might be multiplayer, right? Instead of having to open the game, start the game, load my save, put my sign down, and have Scott summon me, what they're saying is I would go right into Scott's world, right? Like from the UI of the console. So I would see Elden Ring, see Scott's online, see what he's doing, click on Scott, and then I'm in his game, right? I'm booting only to join, like immediately go to what I want to do. That's pretty cool, right? And they're talking about the servers for multiplayer games essentially providing that information to the console in real time. That's one of those things where it's like, this seems like something Sony will do for their games, and maybe third-party developers might not necessarily incorporate, but it is one of those things of like, wow, that is like an innovative, cool thing that, you know, I wouldn't think about. And I think those are some of the things that we can benefit off of, like those faster storage and the faster processing power. But again, they don't talk about a lot here. They talk about some things in weird specifics like that feature. But they talk a lot mostly about the controller, which is apparently very similar to the DualShock 4, only it has USB-C, and they've taken out vibration in favor of haptic feedback, like most smartphones. So different things will feel differently on different parts of the controller, depending on what you're doing. Like if you're walking across a bumpy surface, it'll feel like you're walking across a bumpy surface. If you're walking across ice, it'll feel like you're sliding across ice, right? And the haptics in the controller will all respond in real time to give that feeling. That's cool, right? Like, I don't know. Again, take this with a grain of salt, because I have no visual point of reference for how they are incorporating this into video games. But in concept, I understand what they're going for in the kinds of things that they're trying to do. What I want to ask you two about is, one, like, what would it take either of you to be interested in either of these platforms? And two, like, how do you feel about, and again, I'm coming to you because I feel like you two are going to have a different opinion than most people. How do you feel about them kind of unveiling, hey, like, this is it, and this is what it's about. It's coming out, you know, in this time frame. Here's the info dump. We'll tell you more later. We'll show it to you later, in like this kind of nondescript way, of a Wired article, and then like a blog post on the PlayStation blog. So like, Tony, what would it take for you to be interested in PS5 or Project Scarlet? Like, is that something?
I'm already interested, so you don't have to convince me, really.
Okay, all right. Like, I know, but like the thing is, you play predominantly on PC, so I don't know where you're at with it.
Yeah, I mean, like, you know, I'm down. If a new console comes out, like they've got promising first parties, third parties. I'm interested. I'm sure that some shit will come out, like they have had come out in the past that will make it worth the buy.
Yeah. What about you, Scott? I feel like you're a harder sell.
Yeah, because I'm probably full out.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't really matter what the console at this point is going to do, because as they can make it as cool as they want, but the games that I play generally aren't on there.
Yeah. How do you?
Or they're available on PC too.
Yeah. You have an option within your wheelhouse already.
Right. And so like what's going to end up happening is it's any game that I do get to will be a PlayStation exclusive will already be a couple of years old.
Yeah.
Because I'll get one at the tail end of it when it's time for PS6.
Yeah. What about like how they've announced this? Like, do you have any kind of feeling on would you prefer them talking about PS5 this way, or would you prefer them doing like the unveiling event?
I don't really care, because at this point there's been so many leaks and talks about who's been partnering up with who around the consoles.
Yeah.
That enough information was out to say it's not just that they're working on it, but you had a good idea of the scope of its capabilities before this press release came out.
Yeah. Especially with what they talked about earlier in the year themselves.
Yeah. I mean, the UI stuff is pretty cool, but I mean, it's with that, there would be nothing left to unveil with a proper unveil.
Yeah.
So, like, we were already 80% there.
Yeah.
The only thing, the only time I think it's appropriate to reserve an unveiling like that is when you're lower than 30% there.
Okay. Yeah, I can appreciate that. What about you, Tony? Like, again, not knowing where you're coming out from this, I just want your genuine opinion. Would you prefer something like this, or do you want the kind of unveil event?
No, I drop the pomp and circumstance, dude. I don't give a fuck. Just show me what you got.
I mean, the thing is, I generally agree, and I know a lot of folks are kind of back and forth on this, at least from what I've seen. Like, people that I follow and people that talk about video games, it is a weird thing. Like, the pomp and circumstance is like, it was a lot last time around. Like, as someone who loves video games and I get like super hype and everything, like I am there for E3 press conferences. I like it. I'm in for it, right? Boring or otherwise. I watch the Game Awards every year, things like that. It's a lot, and like especially Xbox One stuff, like around that unveil was so botched and poor that there's certainly reason against it. My feeling. Go ahead, Tony.
I don't know. For me, and like I don't buy into like the hype stuff most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that a poor way of generating positive hype about your product is to have this massive unveil event. Like people, it's no surprise that a PS4 or a PS5 is being made.
Yeah.
It's no surprise that the Xbox 2 is going to come out at some point.
Yeah.
At this point, and especially like if there's no groundbreaking new technology, like I think the Switch is a good product for an unveiling because it's
a new concept.
Right. When the PS5 comes out, when the Xbox 2 comes out, they're just putting new internals on something that's already been the same thing for years. Like, I don't need a full reveal event to see the same thing in a different piece of plastic box,
Like, and again, you could say the same thing with the Wii U, which needed a much better unveil than it had, apparently.
Yeah, that's a harder concept to sell too. And
because when it's something like that, it was 10% there.
Yeah,
they brought it to 60.
Yeah, I think about that. I don't know if you guys remember it, but that initial the Switch unveil video, which was like they dropped a YouTube video at the end of October in 2016. That is like, hey, this is the NX, which is what the codename was. It's the Nintendo Switch. And they showed that weird video of the guy playing Breath of the Wild, and then like him taking it out, and then the rooftop party thing and all the weird like mini game stuff of like them taking it around and taking the Joy-Cons off and do like all that, and the guys playing basketball like under an underpass, and then they put the Switch on a table and start playing NBA, like all that weird stuff. But like, you know, that was an effective way to tell me like, here's the shtick of the console, and that was like a 5-minute video. So like, there are better ways to do it just in general. So that's a good. I like that comparison a lot, Tony. Like, for me, the feeling that I'm having is mostly like I'm okay with like the anticlimax of like, hey, it's called the PlayStation 5. Like, what else? What the fuck we call it? You know, like,
hey, it's got a new chip in it that we can't show you yet because
reasons, and like, here are some of the things that we want to do with it. Like, we don't necessarily have a way to show that yet, or whatever. You know, my feeling is just like in general with Sony specifically is they feel very disparate, right? Like, we talked very briefly last week about Sean Layden is gone for like very abruptly for no reason, no known reason at least. And they talked about this. They kind of did this already, is the thing, earlier in the year, and now they're doing it again. Like, they're downing on it in a way of like, why didn't you just tell us all of this at the same time? It just feels like the parts of Sony that are making these decisions are not on the same page to me. And they haven't even talked about a single video game that will be available for this console. Like, they've talked about backwards compatibility. They've teased cross-generation multiplayer. So, like, things that might come out on PS4 early next year and also PS5 sometime next year. You'd still be able to play multiplayer competitively with those two consoles, which sounds miserable. But, like, you know, those are things that they are teasing information about, but they're not, like, talking about. So it's just weird, the things that they are choosing to talk about. It's weird that we don't know any video games that are coming out for this thing, when we know probably things like Death Stranding or The Last of Us Part 2 are probably also going to come out for this platform, right? Like, why not just... I guess, like, you need to sell those games on your current platform, so that's why you don't talk about it for PS5, but, like, it's just weird. And my feeling, just like my 2 cents of like where I'm at with PlayStation 5 as a whole, of like, I love a lot of the things that they're talking about here, especially like we were talking about playing Destiny. If I could skip some of that boot up time just to jump into like a Crucible match or get into a strike with a friend, like, that is awesome, and that is something that directly impacts my time. But looking at the PlayStation 5 and everything they've talked about it, hardware wise, it sounds great and cool, but like, for the Scarlet, you know, I know Halo Infinite is coming out with that console day and date. I also know that Game Pass is going to be a part of that console, and I know backwards compatibility is going to be a part of that console, because Microsoft has spent literally the past 4 years building that brand around those things. So I know day one with my Xbox Scarlet, whatever that is, if I were to get it, I would have access to many, many games via Game Pass, like over 100. And I know at least one game that I'm excited about personally that is coming out the same day as it. So it's just like, if PlayStation is like reading the room and trying to create a message to sell this thing, like, I just don't think they've done that yet. So if this all ends up being like a kind of lead into an actual unveil event sometime early next year, which I feel like is still on the table, it just seems kind of pointless.
Yeah, well, like, I don't know, from past experience with these companies, like, it's, at least I know that Sony's going to put out games that I want to play.
Mm-hmm.
Microsoft is going to put out some games that I'm interested in, but most of the time they're games that I could put a pass to. So they're the ones that would have to impress me with a games lineup to make me want to buy into a console for the long term.
Yeah, and like
for PS4, or, you know, for Sony in general, it's like, if you have solid launch games or not, I'm probably going to get your console at some point, because you're going to put out a Persona game or something like that.
True, yeah.
So there's going to be one killer app for me that's going to get me onto your console.
Yeah.
And because of that, like, it's sort of an inevitability. And again, from past experience with these companies, not once have I ever been excited about a follow-up console.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, a PlayStation 4.5, PlayStation Pro was okay, but it was only a buy-in because I didn't have a PlayStation 4 at the time.
Yeah.
And like Xbox One, 1S, or whatever it was, they came out with, didn't impress me either. And even now, like Nintendo with their new Switch Mini,
Switch Lite.
Yeah, that like none of those ever really, have shaken the game enough for me to then consider like, okay, so maybe I'll wait for the PlayStation 5.5.
Mm-hmm.
So it's or the Xbox 2.5 or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So
I get you.
So there's a lot of experience that we've now got with these companies and the way that they go through these generations that it's almost like a given quantity, and that's why I think that you don't need the reveals and you don't need all that stuff. They can just be like, hey, here's this. They'll probably have some sort of reveal at some point, but just to get the information out there for the people that care, for the people who have their ear to the ground, the people who are going to see it. Because the mainstream consumer is not going to care. Mainstream consumer doesn't need to care.
Yeah.
Mainstream consumer cares when it gets to holiday season and it's on the shelf.
Yeah.
Like now, over a year out, it doesn't matter to them.
Yeah. I get you. I'm curious. I'll ask you both this, and then maybe we can move on. Do either of you think that they're going to do a pro console again?
I would hope
100%, but I would hope that they wouldn't.
Yeah.
I would hope that they are going into it with a mindset that the base console is the pro console.
Yeah.
But, if enough people bought the pro version over the regular one, that may encourage some poor business practice.
Yeah, probably about 2 years ago when the Xbox Scarlet first kind of rumors about it leaked, there was talks that there would be 2 Xboxes that would launch, two of the new console. Essentially, one is a disk drive-less kind of digital-only platform that is weaker but streams games, and the other is the Scarlet, which is the equivalent of the Xbox One X. It is a powerhouse console that will make everything look as good as it possibly can. That has a lot of storage, et cetera, and they've kind of changed that. They've backpedaled from that in the background, and this is all rumors and speculation, of course, but now there's just going to be the one powerhouse console. There's not going to be a kind of cheaper tier of that platform. So I don't know. I get the feeling that they're not going to do pro stuff again. I know that it was not as successful for them as for either PlayStation or Microsoft as they wanted it to be. But that is a tricky thing. That's a hard thing to predict. I would think at the very least, if they want to do it, I hope that they are planning for that now, as opposed to reacting to that and incorporating it halfway through the generation, like they very obviously did this past generation. So yeah, I don't know. It's a weird thing. It's a weird way to do things. It is and it's only weird because it is different, right? And this is the 9th generation of consoles, the 11th, 10 or 11th, whatever in that range. So it just happened a lot, and when it happens, it's different. Of course, it's weird. But we'll see. And as soon as we know more, we'll talk about it here. That's for sure.
To throw shade at Nintendo, I think they kind of need a pro version of their system
for sure. And it's been rumored for a long time.
It's not about the console being underpowered. It's Nintendo. We understand this. We don't care anymore.
Yeah, honestly, with Nintendo,
it's the Joy-Cons.
Yeah, you're right. They need to redo this.
Yeah,
they need to fix that.
It's the Joy-Cons. The heat on the heat problem well docked is a huge problem.
Yeah. My hope with Nintendo is that they just do a Switch 2 and then the Switch 3, and they just make this platform infinitely, because this is, for me, it is this is what the Nintendo platform should be. I don't want them to do a different one again.
Yeah, if we're gonna live in magical Christmas land as far as Nintendo consoles is concerned, I would really like for them to make an adult version of the Switch. You know what I mean?
Some with porn games on it.
No, not at all what I'm talking about. I mean, because the Switch is ultimately built with, an adolescent or
little people hands.
Yeah, little people hands, little people console. I would like for them to come out with, like some kind of version of the Switch that's made for, that's got like the ergonomic grips.
Yeah.
That's got the more performance, like Nintendo Pro. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's something that I actually would be looking for in a console like the Switch that is built to perform at a lower spec. The option for a higher spec or, a more premium version of that console is something that I would be interested in because they also drive a lower price factor.
Yeah.
But yeah, I find that a lot of the things about a lot of things like the Joy-Cons and stuff about the Switch kind of cheap, and that's not what I'm interested in when I'm looking to purchase a game console for the long term.
Yeah, I think
so. It would be nice to have the option to get something a little more premium.
Yeah, I think a Switch Pro will happen at some point. When I'm not positive.
Just give me the premium, like bigger Joy-Con that I can actually like put my hand on, that I can get a grip on, that isn't like I can put half of my fingertips on this controller, and I mean like the option there is get a Pro controller, but I don't want that.
But that's that's a different thing. Also, it's like just
I don't want to play in kickstand mode.
Yeah, making those like the handles, like giving the Joy-Con handle of.
Dude, just slap a handle on it like a GameCube. Let's go.
Yeah. I don't know.
Give me a little loop around the back.
Yeah, give me something to like just wrap my giant hands around.
Just transplant the little handle that you had on the GameCube. Just take it off and super glue it to the back of a Switch, and I'll buy it.
The move that I'll do a lot now because I'm mostly playing.
You know what you could even do?
Yeah.
You could go old school and make it an N64.
Just like a weird thing that you hold in the middle.
something about consoles with handles.
Yeah, no, I get it. I play my Switch mostly in bed now, like before I go to bed. And what I'll do...
You bought a GameCube, you had the option to have a gaming console. But at the same time, you also had an option to have a bludgeoning weapon.
It's true. With a handle and everything.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Like, easy access is basically like a mace.
Yeah. Or some kind of flail.
I don't know. It's not attached to a chain.
I don't know, man. You ain't seen my GameCube. I will lay in bed, and what I'll do is I'll lay like fully horizontal on my pillow with my Switch on its side, propped up against other pillows.
How do you?
And I take the Joy-Cons off.
That isn't fully horizontal.
I don't know. Well, like if you're sitting up like against some pillows or something.
Okay.
But I'll take the Joy-Cons off and I'm just laying like on my side, looking at my Switch, also on its side with my Joy-Cons, like just wherever, like
in your pants.
In my pants, always.
Yeah,
right.
Rumble function.
HD Rumble, baby. I gotta get that HD Rumble.
Right.
But like that is way easier for my like big hands to just like fully engulf these little Joy-Con. Yeah, I'm with you guys. Give me like a real handles.
Man, next time you're talking about games you want to come out on the Switch and like you start bringing up some weird like VR Kanojo shit, I'm gonna know.
You're gonna know. I'm just putting that HD Rumble right up my butt. Yeah. That's it for news. We could talk about Blizzard, but I don't necessarily trust myself to have the nuance to have that conversation.
I don't think we should have that conversation.
Yeah, I think like if you are passionate about that, you will find that conversation, and you'll hear it and you will have it. So, I don't know if our show is the right one for that. That is it for the show. Really, we didn't get any questions this week, but if you'd like to send some in, you can tweet them at @irrationalpod. Just use the hashtag IPQ. You can email us mailsack @irrationalpodcast.com. Leave us a voicemail 404-590-1337. If you're an 800 number, please stop calling our voicemail line. I don't know who you are. I don't know who gave you that number.
We're not buying it.
We're not buying it. I don't want your insurance for my dog or my car. Some other stuff real. Oh, you got something, Tony?
No, nothing.
I'm sure it was hilarious. Some other stuff real quick. Rate and review us on iTunes if you haven't already, or Stitcher, or Google Play, or Spotify, wherever you listen to this show. It does help us a lot, actually. Check out our other shows like RPG University and Video Game Book Club. Book Club is ending up its first season soon, so after the end of the Luigi's Mansion Book Club, we're going to take a little bit of a break, but you can still catch up on the old episodes. There's a whole year's worth, and book club is super fun and super weird. Like, we get into weird stuff on that show, so you should definitely listen to it. Hi, Nabishin.
Welcome to the end of the show.
Welcome to the end of the podcast.
I don't even know why I joined in.
No, don't.
We want you here.
We want you here. I got some things queued up for you. Don't worry, Nabishin. And for everything else, rationalpatch.com is the place to be. Nabishin, now that you've joined us, we just finished our conversation about the PlayStation 5. It was very good chat. I want your boilerplate take on this weird announcement. How do you feel? How did you feel after this? You're coming in hot. It's time to throw your opinion at us.
Like, probably the biggest thing about like the way Sony's been doing the way they've been announcing like pretty much everything for almost this entire year is just like they're giving out like a messaging or they just make me feel like not necessarily that I should be excited for it, but like this it's kind of like an inevitable kind of thing. At least it's what it feels like. It feels like something like you just like you know something's coming out and it's like it's almost put out in a way where it's like, oh, I guess I'll get it, but it's like I'm not happy or hyped or anything like that to get it. You know what I mean? It's like it's kind of like one of those things where it's like you know something's gonna happen, and it's like you're kind of just saying like, hey, it's happening, so like just here you go,
deal with
it,
I guess.
Yeah, basically, and like. And it's almost they're almost saying it in a way it's like, oh, you're gonna buy it anyway. So it's like and like you're kind of right, but like it's also like, yeah, okay. Like you're not excited for it, so why should I be excited about it, kind of thing?
Yeah, it seems like they're not pretty stoked on it. And maybe they are, like maybe there is like some big plan. It's just weird. So we kind of went through some of the features and talked a little bit about it, but is there anything that from this recent kind of unveiling that really jumps out to you that you think is really cool?
Probably the two big things are just the like probably like the biggest thing, which is like something that's not necessarily it's something I trained myself to be so used to now that it's like it almost isn't anything, but like it's just like load times.
Yeah.
The solid the SSD, whereas like personally I'm okay with load times, but like it's also a thing that like I could completely do without. Because I think about stuff like Tekken 7, like a fantastic game, one of the best games ever made for this generation. But like the load times are so insane for that game just to go from one match to another. Like even just to do like something like a rematch could almost take like a minute just to load up to do that. It's like that's insane. Like especially like in this day and age, it feels like so it's definitely stuff like that could get improved up, like because it's so funny too. It's like I remember like last generation, like load times were definitely a thing. I was like, oh, like this is the worst generation because of load times. Load times are insane.
They were pretty bad though, to be fair.
Especially on PS3, and like that's why everything had to install, and even after you install last gen, like it still took a long time. So like and that's why you were like thankful for games like Uncharted that like loaded all in front that didn't do it while you're playing the game, but like obviously it's just like they're them just doing really smart things, so like it just hit the load time type of thing.
Yeah.
God, I don't know why my throat's so messed up today.
Kimi, we brought you in rusty. I'm sorry, Nabishin. What's the other thing?
You're from, the other thing was like God, I had the thought of it.
The haptic feedback?
No, I couldn't care about that
Damn.
at all.
I'm really excited about the triggers, the different like the adaptive triggers is what they're calling them, but like the different kinds of tension.
You know, like the thing about that is it's like it's almost a thing for me, or this is the way I'm thinking it, at least. It's like it's something that they have to make something super stupid and expensive on your controller just to make it so to be like it could justify
$70 controller.
$70. Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
So that's the way I see it, at least.
No one in the article, they don't mention if the controller still has the light bar. They say it looks pretty much exactly like the DualShock 4, but they don't mention if it has the light bar. And I want to know. But yeah.
Mm.
What was the other thing?
I'm trying to remember.
The loading from the UI.
No, it wasn't the UI. What are the other features? I'm sorry. I'm
You're
trying to
good.
remember.
There was like 6, so it's somewhere in there. The other thing I asked Scott and Tony was like, do you think they're going to do an incremental upgrade console in the middle of this next generation again? Obviously, we don't know, but I just, what do you think going into it will happen?
I mean, this is obviously going to be like a deluxe thing when it comes out, so it's going to be expensive out the gate. And I wouldn't be surprised if they did. I say that.
Do you think that it's more likely to happen than not, though? Is the real question.
It's tough. Like we were kind of all split on it.
Yeah, because I initially said, well, of course they're going to. Do I want them to? Absolutely not.
Right.
But then Alex went ahead and pointed out, well, the deluxe consoles, the pro consoles, they didn't do that well.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they also became somewhat essential, or at least right now, they seem like they need to be essential for most people, just to even like have their games running well, like with control and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So like it's like, because like it depends how much of a jump they're doing. Like if this is basically if the next console is basically like Xbox One X levels of power, which it seems like they're being more of that, being more than that, but like still like, you know, comparable, I guess you would say, then like I can see it happening. But like if they're actually like a significant jump from Xbox One X, then like I can see it lasting the entire like 5 to 7 years.
Yeah. Okay. Do you have any other thoughts on PS5?
No, like it's just one of those things. Like like I'm assuming they'll actually like have a show for it on around February. Like I just assumed that's how they did PS4.
Yeah,
but like
I would bet it's March. Like as soon as they're clear of The Last of Us, they're going to talk about it.
Sure.
They're going to send Tsushima off to die because they're fucking monsters. But which that game probably comes out like I would bet May of next year, either between May and August. With like, there's no way they put that out like in September, right? Like, there's no way they put that out just before like presumably November when this thing comes out.
I mean, why not? If the system is
backwards compatible,
it's like you're still gonna get the game, and like if it enhances itself, well, without you having to buy like a certain version of it, then like I don't see why not.
Yeah.
The game is still the game, and like at that point, just so they can be somewhat competitive, like not exactly this, but like I could see them having something like a subscription service, so like so it won't really matter, kind of like with Game Pass on Xbox One.
Yeah. Do you think they just copy Game Pass?
Well, we're getting to a point now where the NPDs don't matter. Like that's why I made the bet about like Gears 5 is like what does it matter? Because like if it's on something that like they're always going to get money regardless, and like the NPDs don't really matter. And it's like if Gears is like in number 10 on the top 10 NPDs, it's still like one of the best games of this year as far as like not really sales but like viewership, because people got it for free. So who cares?
I think it still matters significantly for like most games still don't hit Game Pass, right? Like I think especially like seeing how, for point of reference on how well Nintendo is doing by comparison to the other two consoles, but also how well their software is selling, and I think those first party titles, certainly it's a different thing.
Yeah, that's mostly what I mean. And like that's why I feel why Nintendo basically been dominating this year with their games. And like they're always like there's like always like 3 or 4. No, there's always like 4 or 5 on the top 10 because of that.
Yeah.
It's the only place you can really buy it. And like even they don't even show their digital sales, like it's still a good amount of games on that.
Yeah,
list.
they're still pushing.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Yeah, it's a weird thing. PlayStation 5. It's out there. We've reached the end of the show now, Bashin. You know what time it is. I saw you wrote it. It's time for bets, baby. Let's make some bets. I want you all to know for last week's bet, I had to purchase and then play through the tutorial of Yooka-Laylee and the Impossible Lair moments before this podcast, which is partly why I jumped in 20 minutes late. But I did it. So we have factual information for that. This week's bet. On the September NPDs, which are coming out on October 17th, what placement will Gears 5 place on the top 10? This is a great bet. We talked about it at the beginning of, like right after Gears 5 came out. What placement? What do you think, Nabashin? You just joined us, coming in hot. You have a hot take, I'm sure.
I think it's hot.
Read the bet one more time.
On the September NPDs, which are coming out on the October 17th, we will know them by this time next week for the podcast. What placement will Gears 5 place on the top 10?
Keep in mind that Borderlands came out. Gears is like a big Game Pass thing. They're pushing that more than the game itself, it seems. So, like,
yeah. And Gears is big. It's a big deal to a lot of people. Maybe not the people on this podcast, but a lot of people. What do you think, Namashin?
I'm gonna go with 2. It's like 2 or 3. I'm gonna say 2 though.
Okay, I'm gonna go with 4. Tony?
I was gonna say 3. I decided that before anyone said anything.
Okay.
8.
My first bet was 7. So Scott, you and I were in the same place.
I'm just saying. I'm thinking the Game Pass is gonna hurt the NPDs.
I think so. I think that's fair.
I agree, but like, I think there's too many Gears head and like who actually want the physical like collector's edition. Maybe I don't know. That's my thinking, but I'm not sure.
That's fair though. Last week's bet in Yooka-Laylee and the Impossible Lair. If I just hold right on the first level and jump over any obstacle, how long until I fall in a pit or die? I said 18 seconds. Nabashin said 25 seconds. Tony said 15 seconds. Mike said 8 seconds. So here's the wrinkle with this. There is a tutorial level, which is like when you hit start, you actually just go right into the tutorial level. It doesn't even like take you to a cutscene or story bit or whatever. Like all of it happens in that first level, and you can't die in the tutorial level. So I didn't count that. I went to the first actual level after that, which is why it took me so long. And I died after 9 seconds.
Read the bet again?
In Yooka-Laylee and the Impossible Lair, if I just hold right on the first level and jump over any obstacle, how long until I fall in a pit or die? So here's my thing. You cannot access the tutorial level after you've done it. So it is one of those things where it's like just the beginning of the game and then it kind of puts you out into the rest of it. So in the first level, it took me 9 seconds, give or take about half a second. But either way, Mike still wins. Here's the thing. How many points do we give the editorial team?
30.
Should we give him 30?
No, it should still. When was the last time an editor was on the show besides Mike? We had one before, right?
Yeah, we'd had one the week before.
Okay, well, he lost his other bonus points that he got by losing the bet.
So he just gets 1 point.
So Mike gets 5.
5 points. Okay. I was curious where we were going to end up on this. All right.
Right, because the one before was worth double because it was 10, but now he lost them. Like the general consensus is until they win as much as they could have won. During what was it?
Now I will say this, Scott. There was no editor on the week before this last week's bet. So would that mean because there was a week off for the editors, this would be worth 10 points?
How many points do we have?
You and me, Tony?
You said there was
28. I was wrong.
How many points do the editors have?
Okay.
Now
they get 10.
Now they have 13.
What did they now with? How many do they have without this?
3.
Give them 15 points.
Okay.
No, they get 10.
No, we gotta make it interesting, Scott. We'll give them a different amount.
I would say that, but they still do have another 10. Like, after we give them this 10, they have another 10's worth of boosted points
from next week.
I think it was a total of.
They deserve to win.
They do. All right. Team about to bust a bet, 28 points still. Team doubling down, 23 points still. Team Super Pink Girl Power, anywhere between 13 and 18 points. That's it for bets. Machine, you got anything? You playing video games this week? You get anything wild?
Nothing we're talking about. I started Indivisible. That's games. So cool.
Cool.
That's all I can really say.
Yeah. We talked a little bit about people who listened to the audio version of last week's podcast. You got to hear Mike talk about it. Sorry you missed most of the show, bud. I know you had to get some stuff done.
It's my fault, honestly. I passed out.
You needed rest. Honestly, I'm ready to pass out. So let's end this podcast. Just keep in mind, Nabashin, I didn't write any titles. So we're going to figure that out in a minute. But thank you, everybody, for hanging out, for listening. Thank you to Nabashin, Scott, and Tony, as always, for joining me. I love these boys so much.
Surprise bit.
Yeah? What's the surprise bit?
Did we end up talking about how the Epic to developer deals go down?
No, we didn't. Do you have more information on that? Because I tried looking it up.
We do.
Okay.
So this kind of makes it extra bad.
Uh-huh.
Because before it was, okay, they paid developers X amount of money. But that's not entirely true. The money changing hands is true.
Mm-hmm.
But Epic buys an agreed upon number of sales for the game.
Yeah.
So those numbers end up coming up in reports of how many copies the game sold.
Really?
They do.
Okay. So that's,
which makes it extra shady.
Yeah, that kind of skews all those charts.
It does.
I know the MPD does not track Epic Game sales. They don't track Steam sales.
But it's essentially it makes what a couple of developers have been saying about it completely and 100% like accurate. There's for most developers that take the deal, there's no point in not.
Yeah.
They do not have enough of a market for I think the very specific company that declined was 200,000 copies sold.
Mm-hmm. Damn.
Most of the developers they go after do not have the market to have that many people buy the game unless they hit the pipe dream of like a 2 million blow up, which happens for like companies once every, I want to say 10 years.
Yeah, I mean that's like
unless you're like we're talking about the smaller ones that the Epic is going after.
Yeah, we're talking about like PewDiePie stream my game and suddenly like I'm a huge success, like type things of like those things do happen, just they're not very common.
Right. But yeah, that's that.
Okay, interesting, man. I'd heard about that. I didn't know that kind of plays into like it was like a real raw sales figure. Yeah, there is like I've seen a lot of like developers out on Twitter of like I could make my game and not have to fucking worry about it because Epic essentially guaranteed that a certain amount of it would sell. Like it would be
and then like from the sales of how well their game did, no matter how many people buy it afterwards, it looks good.
Yeah, it's true.
Because like in the worst case scenario, it looks good. Where Epic buys it, everybody, and I mean absolutely everybody, boycotts the game. They sold 200,000 copies.
Yeah.
They did good.
Yeah. Interesting. The plot thickens. Man, when we talk, like, if we do anything at the end of the year, we should talk about, like, some of the biggest weird things that have happened in the video game industry. Epic Game Store is, like, such a crazy thing. Anyway, back to the close of the show. Thank you, three lovely gentlemen, for joining me. As always, I love you boys. Thank you to Danny Wiesner for opening music of Two-Player Co-op and our closing music of The World Is Saved. Danny and Tori Wiesner, I should specify. They work together to make those songs. And
they do a damn good job.
They do a damn good job. And thank you to everybody who hung out, tuned in live, listened, enjoyed the show, enjoyed our opinions, or hated us. I don't know. Thanks for hanging out, at least.
Yeah, thank you for hanging us.
I think that's it. Check out irrationalpassions.com. A lot of cool stuff happening. If you're watching live, like I said, we're raiding tomorrow. Twitch.tv/irrationalpassions. If you're listening to the audio version, you missed it, but I'm sure we'll archive it on YouTube. Hopefully we beat the raid. We're going to find out. Anyway, I've been your host, Alex O'Neill. Play your games. Stay irrational. We will talk to you all next week.
Tony D rating?
Titles?
Tony D rating?
Fuck no.
Okay.
Surprise bit and free Hong Kong. The title should just be free Hong Kong and just see how much traction we get with that one.
What, by not talking about it at all?
Yeah, by not talking about it. We brought it up.
Okay. I didn't know.
It was just that I was like, I don't know if we should talk about this, and Tony's like, we probably shouldn't. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. It's much more of like, I honestly, because they're trying to figure out, like, get input back off the ground. I'm like, I honestly almost reach out to them and be like, hey, I'll come on and I'll fucking host, but like we should probably talk about this. I put my opinion out on Twitter, so like I'm comfortable with where I am. So
I mean, in all honesty, we've always avoided this stuff.
Yeah, we try.
We know about it, but like as far as the show goes,
yeah, we don't have to get into it.
We skip a good chunk of the news as is anyway.
Yeah.
Nowadays, yeah, but it's also nice to put out your stance every once in a while.
Yeah, that's I try and bring a healthy balance.
For sure. But surprise bit is good.
Surprise bit is good.
That made me chuckle when Scott said that.
Fucking made me be like, "What's happening?" Like I was so scared. I was so scared Scott was gonna be like, "All right, here's my essay, and like we're gonna go through that." I'm like, "Okay."
Yeah, because I didn't know if we talked about it. I didn't know if it really belonged in the news bit because it was just it's more or less some side information,
and it was kind of like a follow up for what we had mentioned kind of at the end of the show last week. So, cool. Namashin, do you want to say the episode number so that when people listen to the podcast, they think you're on it the whole time? And then Scott, do you want to say the title?
Is it 443?
Is it surprise bit?
Yeah, it's surprise bit. It is 443, correct.
And this is the Irrational Patches Podcast, episode 443.
Surprise bit!
You all right, Namashin? You coughing up there?
Yeah, I don't know, man. Like I said, I've just been coughing.
All right. Have a good night, everybody. Thanks for hanging out. We love you all. Bye.